Welcome to Switzerland, a small European nation hidden in the Alps, home to 8.6 million people and some really good chocolate. The Swiss economy is one of the most advanced free market economies on the planet, and its citizens are among the world's wealthiest. All this while being a landlocked country in which no one can agree on what language to speak. So what makes Switzerland so special, and why is it so rich? Let's take a look at the history. Before the establishment of Switzerland as a federal state in 1848, most of rural Switzerland was poor and underdeveloped, and it wasn't until the so-called Swiss miracle from the mid-19th century did the Swiss economy emerge as one of the most prosperous in Europe. Switzerland's emergence as a prosperous European nation continued into the 20th century and was a result of its laissez-faire approach to industrial and trade policy, as well as its role during the world wars as a neutral state, which saw it profit from the increased exports and delivery of weapons to France, Germany and the United Kingdom. Post-World Wars, the Swiss economy entered another period of sustained economic growth, much like the rest of Western Europe at the time, with annual growth averaging 4 to 5%. However, it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. Like many of its neighbouring countries, Switzerland was significantly affected by the oil crisis in the 1970s, which in 1974 even saw the prohibition of private transportation on 3 separate days. Since then, the Swiss economy has more or less grown at a steady and unimpressive rate, which in and of itself is not a bad thing. After all, steady, reliable growth is a positive outcome. With all that said, let's take a look at what the Swiss economy looks like today. The Swiss economy's size doesn't seem ridiculously impressive at face value. With a GDP of $715 billion in 2019, it ranks 20th globally, ahead of Sweden, Nigeria and Argentina, but behind Turkey, Saudi Arabia and the Netherlands. However, when we take into account that Switzerland is not a very populous nation, then we really get an idea of how much money is circling around those snow-capped mountains. Globally, in nominal terms, Switzerland ranks second with regards to GDP per capita, ahead of the United States, Norway and Singapore, but behind its European rival, Luxembourg. This is really impressive, and it translates into Switzerland offering the highest net average wages in Europe, attracting economic migrants from countries like Germany, France, Italy and the UK. Despite its small size, Switzerland is also the world's 17th largest importer and exporter. In 2017, it exported the same amount as Russia. That's $336.8 billion worth of goods and services. And the EU's latest data shows that it exported more to Switzerland than it does to Russia, Turkey and Japan. In fact, exports to Switzerland are not that far behind those to China. The Swiss economy is undeniably impressive. But what do the Swiss excel at? Surely selling watches and chocolate aren't enough to prop up this landlocked nation. Today, the Swiss economy, like many advanced economies, is dominated by the service sector, which comprises 74% of all activity. That said, Switzerland has a very strong manufacturing sector that we will see in a moment. Some of the main industries in the service sector include banking, insurance, tourism, and international organizations. And we'll start off with the elephant in the room. Yes, Switzerland's banking sector is shady, and it deserves its own video. But in short, Swiss banks have served as safe havens for humanity's most corrupt humans. We're talking dictators, mobsters, corrupt politicians, arms dealers, and the list really does go on. The Swiss banking sector even ranked as the most corrupt in the world by the Tax Justice Network, an independent international network, back in 2018. And at the heart of the corruption in Switzerland's banking industry is financial secrecy. The Swiss won't ask questions, and they'll keep their mouths shut. With all that said, the Swiss banking sector does have other advantages over its competitors. For example, remember this map? Here we can see 3 different cities that cater to 3 different markets. German is spoken in Zurich, French in Geneva, and Italian in Lugano. This has allowed these cities to enter the German, French, and Italian banking markets respectively, giving Swiss banking a unique advantage over its adversaries. Perhaps the most important body in the Swiss banking sector is the Swiss Banking Association, or SBA. Founded in 1912, the SBA is the body that represents Swiss banks to the government of Switzerland, and since they represent Swiss banks, they are a force to be reckoned with. According to their own estimates, in 2018, Swiss banks held $6.5 trillion in assets. That accounts for 25% of all global cross-border assets. And all of this activity to manage these assets and provide the necessary banking services is a big moneymaker for Switzerland. Moving on from banking, one industry in the service sector that is rather unique to Switzerland is that of international organizations. Switzerland is a global hub for diplomacy, and this is in part due to its neutral status throughout its history. In fact, in Geneva, in the French-speaking part of Switzerland, it is home to the World Health Organization, the World Trade Organization, the World Intellectual Property Organization, the International Labour Organization, and many, many more. These organizations bring in a lot of high-paying jobs, not just for the Swiss, but also for the world's best and brightest who come to Switzerland to earn those sky-high salaries, and in turn, boost the Swiss economy. So the Swiss service sector sounds like a unique and vibrant sector, but the Swiss economy definitely has more to offer. Have you ever heard of Rolex or Roche? Well, these companies are at the forefront of the Swiss manufacturing industry, and Switzerland has one of the most competitive pharmaceutical industries in the world. In fact, chemical products alone accounted for 30% of Swiss exports in 2017. That's nearly $85 billion. In addition to chemical products, the Swiss possess the most valuable watch industry in the world, and with the reputation of being reliable, accurate, and on time, it kind of makes sense. In 2011, the Swiss exported $21.8 billion worth of watches, dwarfing second place Hong Kong, who exported $8.8 billion worth. This is all the more impressive when we consider that the Swiss shipped 85% fewer units than Hong Kong. This is predominantly because the Swiss ship high-end watches, and we've all seen how much a Rolex can cost you. Switzerland's economy then is unique in many ways, but what does this mean for its residents? Do they work harder than their counterparts in other developed countries? Let's find out. Generally speaking, the Swiss workforce is highly skilled and relatively foreign. In 2019, 25.2% of the resident population were born outside the country, significantly higher than even the USA and Germany. And if you thought this would have a negative impact on unemployment, I'm afraid you're wrong. In Switzerland, despite its large foreign population, its unemployment rate is very low. As of January 2020, it was only 2.6%, lower than even the German rate. And data from the OECD show that Switzerland's employment rate was 80.4% in Q1 of 2020, making the USA look lazy. Job opportunities in Switzerland are plentiful and well paid, and they have to be, since the cost of living in Switzerland is extremely high. Both Zurich and Geneva never fail to feature in annual rankings regarding the cost of living, no matter who is compiling the data. All in all, Switzerland's economy is one of a kind. Its success has been accelerated by the peculiar scenario it finds itself in, and it's managed to take full advantage of the cards it's been dealt. I'd expect the Swiss to remain among the world's wealthiest citizens for decades to come, and for the Swiss economy to continue being stable and reliable at the heart of Europe. Hey everyone, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to help support the channel. Take care, bye.